What's going on here? Oh, Gideon, your row of trees violated Section 5.9c. They're blocking a critical sightline at the corner. As president, I have the authority to step in when a homeowner refuses to fix an issue after being notified. Notified? I never got any notice about my trees breaking any rules. I shot back, my eyes glued to the pile of ruined branches. My $3,500 investment, now shredded to pieces. We emailed all residents last week. The board met and decided to take emergency action for safety reasons. Pause. This is a protected visibility zone. You really should read the handbook more carefully. Let me tell you the story of what I've been through under this HOA regime. Have you ever felt so suffocated, so fed up with ridiculous HOA rules that you just couldn't take it anymore? If you have, drop a comment with the number 9 so I know you're ready to hear my tale. Oh, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the juiciest drama still waiting ahead with me. I'm Gideon Strathmore, 41 years old, a civil engineer born on the wide-open plains of Tulsa, Oklahoma. With 25 years of experience designing residential communities, I've always prided myself on understanding order and structure. But when I stepped into Pine Hollow Ridge 13 months ago, I never imagined life would turn me into the neighborhood rebel, squaring off against the self-appointed guardians of the rules. I never thought I'd become the guy stirring up the neighborhood. But sometimes, circumstances shove you into a corner with no other way out. After more than 2 decades as a civil engineer, I figured I'd mastered living by the book. Then I moved to Pine Hollow Ridge, home to the region's most infamous HOA president, Karen Vandermeer. That's when I learned that following the rules can sometimes mean clashing head-on with the people who think they own them. I bought this corner lot 13 months ago. The seller casually mentioned that the HOA here really cares about appearances. That sounded harmless enough, like saying the Grand Canyon is kind of deep. My first run-in with Karen came the Saturday after I moved in. I was still fumbling through boxes, trying to figure out the kitchen lights, when the doorbell rang 6 times in a row, so insistent I nearly slammed my hand on the counter. There, at my doorstep, stood a woman in a sleek light gray business suit, dripping with an extravagant pearl necklace, probably worth enough to fund my life for a year. Her glossy blonde hair was styled to perfection, not a strand moving as she tilted her head to size me up. I silently bet the amount of hairspray she used could hold up a roof. Hello, I'm Karen Vandermeer, president of the Pine Hollow Ridge HOA. I'm here to welcome you to our community. Her voice was steady, but her eyes lacked any hint of warmth. She thrust a thick hardcover book into my hands. The title, Pine Hollow Ridge Community Guidelines, gleamed in gold letters under the sunset. All 84 pages are required reading. I'd suggest paying close attention to the sections on yard maintenance and exterior changes. We've had trouble with new residents before. The word trouble popped out of her mouth like someone had once planted a cactus farm in their front yard. I thanked her politely, assuming it was just a quick meet and greet. I was so naive. That night, I sat amid the chaos of my dining room, flipping through the handbook. The level of detail floored me. It dictated everything, from the 17 approved exterior paint colors, each with its own code, to the maximum height for garden statues. Exactly 12 inches, no exceptions. There was even a seasonal flower list, complete with notes on colors that fit the neighborhood spirit. Even though I found these rules bizarre, I resolved to follow them to the letter. I measured my front lawn to exactly 7 inches, not a blade off. The mailbox got a coat of approved brick red paint. My front door? Ochre Vale, the only shade of earthy yellow allowed for east-facing corner lots. Trash cans only hit the curb during the 16-hour pickup window. I set out to be Pine Hollow Ridge's model resident. For 10 months, I lived quietly, staying off Karen's radar. I'd see her cruising the neighborhood in her fancy sedan, clipboard in hand, slapping violation notices on other people's doors. But when she passed my place, she'd glance over and keep going. I secretly smugly patted myself on the back for my compliance, even if I sometimes had to swallow my irritation at the monthly newsletter's gripes about unapproved noise-making decorations or holiday decor left up 6 days past the deadline. Things took a turn when I decided to upgrade my home with a row of privacy trees along the side yard. My corner lot sits right by a busy road, and I wanted to cut the noise and shield my view from passers-by. The handbook, page 67, section 7, was clear. Natural fencing may be permitted if it's no taller than 10 feet and doesn't obstruct corner sightlines. I did my homework. I picked Leland's cypress trees, listed in the handbook's Appendix F, and hired a professional crew to plant them at exactly 9 feet 6 inches tall. I set them 25 feet from the corner, well beyond the 18-foot safety minimum. I documented everything, notes, photos before and after, all filed away just in case. The crew I chose was on the HOA's approved contractor list, and they swore every step followed protocol. The row of trees looked amazing, private yet peaceful. For 7 weeks, I savored my new secluded space, feeling satisfied that I'd upgraded my property while still playing by the rules. But then, out of nowhere, a day crashed and that dragged me into a fight I never saw coming. It was a Thursday afternoon. I pulled into my driveway after work and could hardly believe my eyes. There was Karen Vandermeer, standing in my front yard next to 2 guys with hedge trimmers. My beautiful Leland cypress trees? They were butchered, reduced to sparse stumps less than 4 feet tall. Once a lush green shield for my home, they now looked pitiful, offering no privacy, no beauty, nothing. I slammed the car door shut and marched across the lawn, anger surging with every step. "What's going on here?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady even though I was boiling inside. Karen turned, flashing a tight, awkward smile as she adjusted her pricey sunglasses. "Oh, Gideon, your trees violated section 5.9C. They were blocking a critical sightline at the corner. As president, I'm authorized to act when a homeowner ignores a notice to fix it." Notices? I never got a single notice about my trees breaking any rules. I fired back, my gaze locked on the wreckage. The $3,500 investment I'd poured into them, now in ruins. She waved a hand casually, her gold bracelet glinting in the sunlight. "We sent an email to all residents last week. The board met and decided to take emergency action for safety reasons." She pointed to a little yellow flag stuck in the corner of my lot, something I was certain hadn't been there this morning. "This is a protected visibility zone. You really ought to brush up on that handbook." I was this close to losing it, but I held my ground. After all, 25 years of handling high-stress projects and tough clients had taught me how to stay cool. "Karen," I said firmly, "the handbook states in section 3, paragraph 5, that any direct action by the board requires written notice delivered straight to the homeowner, with a minimum of 7 days to correct it. A mass email doesn't count as official notice." She faltered for a second, her confidence starting to crack. "I'm sorry you feel that way, but it's done now. The association will bill you $450 for the service." With that, she handed cash to the 2 workers, thanked them, and walked off, leaving me standing there beside my mangled trees, seething with frustration. That night, I spent hours poring over the HOA handbook, determined to fight back. I couldn't let Karen trample my property and destroy my hard work without following her own rules. There had to be something in those 84 pages to push back with. And then I found it clear as day. Sure, natural fencing had height limits, but privacy structures? They had their own rules. Specifically, walls made of approved materials could reach up to 8 feet tall, as long as they met county building codes and got a green light from the Architectural Review Committee, ARC for short. The next morning, I submitted a detailed application to the committee to build an 8-foot brick wall in place of my ruined trees. I attached professional blueprints, perks of being an engineer, along with material specs and mock-up images of the finished wall, painted in an approved, earthy tone. Per the bylaws, the committee had 10 days to approve or deny it. No response. It's automatically approved. 3 weeks passed with no word. I called the HOA office 3 times to check on it, but each time, I got the same vague line. The committee was reviewing it and would get back to me soon. Later, I found out Karen, who also chaired the committee, had forgotten to pass my application along to the other members. Her mistake. On day 11, I rented a small excavator and started digging the foundation for my wall. Less than 2 hours in, Karen's shiny SUV screeched to a halt in front of my house. She stormed out, her fancy high heels stomping the grass, arms flailing like she was issuing commands. "What are you doing? You can't build a wall here. Stop this right now, or I'll call the police." Her voice echoed through the neighborhood, loud enough to draw a few curious neighbors to their windows. I calmly shut off the excavator and stepped down, holding a stack of papers in my hand. "Actually, Karen, I'm within my rights to do this. I submitted my wall application exactly 11 days ago. Per Section 6.4 of the bylaws, my project's automatically approved if the committee doesn't respond within 10 days. I handed her a copy of the application, complete with a clear date stamp and a certified mail receipt attached. This is unacceptable. I've never even seen this request," she stammered, her face flushing red against her teal blouse. "I've got the certified mail receipt proving it was delivered to the HOA office and signed for by you. Want to take a look?" I kept my tone steady, professional, though I couldn't hide a faint smirk. "It's all right here, along with proof my trees were perfectly legal before you had them torn down without proper notice." Her face cycled through a few expressions before landing on pure annoyance. "I'm calling an emergency board meeting to address this loophole you're exploiting. That wall won't stand, and you'll have to tear it down yourself to get your property back to an approved state." "It's not a loophole, Karen. It's the process laid out in the handbook you gave me. But go ahead and hold your meeting if you want. Me? I'm going to keep working on my approved project." I climbed back onto the excavator, fired it up, and ended the conversation. Over the next 9 days, I poured myself into building the wall, even taking a few days off work to make sure every detail was perfect. A couple of neighbors stopped by, curious about my project. When I explained what happened, they started sharing their own Karen stories. Birdhouses yanked down for being unapproved, plants uprooted for not being on the allowed list, fines slapped on for leaving trash cans out an extra 2 hours. Turns out I wasn't the only one she'd hassled, just the first to push back effectively. True to her word, Karen called an emergency board meeting, and I showed up as a homeowner. It was held at the neighborhood clubhouse, and Karen clearly wasn't thrilled to see the room packed. Word of our showdown had spread, and residents were eager to see what would happen. She tried to push a retroactive rejection of my application, claiming the wall was a safety hazard and clashed with the neighborhood's aesthetic. I calmly cited the relevant bylaws and presented evidence of my proper submission, leaving a few board members visibly uncomfortable. The HOA's lawyer, brought in by Karen to intimidate me, surprisingly advised the board that my project was legally approved under their own rules. Her motion to reject it failed. Only Karen and one of her close allies on the board voted in favor. Karen was furious. As the meeting wrapped up, she cornered me near the door. "You think you've won? This isn't over. I've got plenty of ways to keep this community up to standard." "I'm just following the standards already written down, Karen. Maybe you should try it sometime," I replied, then walked out. The next morning, I couldn't believe my eyes. A violation notice was taped to my front door, accusing me of improperly storing construction materials and demanding I clear it within 36 hours, or face a $75 daily fine. The handbook did say materials couldn't be left in plain sight, but it also allowed exceptions for active projects within a 9-day window. I still had time. Instead of arguing, I handled it right away. I rented a portable storage unit, moved all the materials inside before sunset, and parked it exactly 20 feet from the curb, 2 feet past the minimum requirement. The next morning, Karen drove by, clearly itching to find me, only to find an empty yard. I couldn't help but grin as disappointment washed over her face. That storage rental suddenly felt like a bargain. As my wall neared completion, Karen upped the ante. She reported me to the county building inspector, claiming I was constructing without a permit. Lucky for me, I dotted every I and crossed every T. 25 years in construction taught me how to cover my bases. The inspector came, reviewed my paperwork, checked the build, and even complimented the work. "You don't see residential projects this well done too often," he said while signing off. Most folks just slap it together, but you've gone above and beyond every standard. Karen didn't see it coming. While the inspector was there, I casually mentioned a few recent HOA actions, like how they chopped down my trees without proper notice. The inspector, who seemed all too familiar with Karen and Pine Hollow Ridge, suggested I check if the HOA had permits for their recent community projects. He specifically pointed to a decorative statue Karen had put up at the neighborhood entrance. "Funny thing," he said with a chuckle, "we've had complaints about that statue. Every time I come to check, they say the permit's in process. It's been dragging on for a year now." I dug into the county records right after that. Turns out they didn't just lack a permit for the statue, they'd never even applied for one. Karen had pushed it as a community enhancement, burning through $40,000 of HOA funds without following county protocol. I filed an official complaint with the county that same day. Within a few days, Karen's pet project was hit with a stop work order and a $7,000 fine for the HOA. The frustration inside me had turned into a blazing resolve. She wasn't getting away with this anymore. But I didn't stop there. Karen's arrogance had ignited something in me, a fierce determination to hold her accountable for years of bullying the neighborhood. The more I dug, the more dirt I found on how she'd been running the HOA. I talked to former board members who'd quit over disagreements with her. I listened to neighbors share stories of her baseless punishments. I reviewed meeting minutes and financial reports, stuff every homeowner should have access to, but that was either missing or sloppily recorded in a way that didn't add up. One big breakthrough came from Marigold Tennyson, a retired accountant who lived 5 houses down from me. She'd been the treasurer until Karen forced her off the board 3 years ago. Over tea in her tidy garden, she spilled her suspicions. "The numbers never lined up," she said, her voice thick with frustration. Maintenance costs tripled after Karen hired her brother-in-law's company for landscaping. I asked for receipts, but they told me it was internal info. That's not how HOA finances work. While I put the finishing touches on my wall, a sturdy brick structure with a handsome textured finish, painted in an approved light brown earth tone, I was also building a thick file on Karen's violations. Unfair rule enforcement, improper meeting notices, unapproved spending from HOA funds, possible kickbacks from favored contractors, and a laundry list of other missteps. I documented everything meticulously, crafting evidence no one could brush off. My wall was finished exactly 6 weeks after Karen Vandermeer demolished my Leland cypress trees. It stood tall, a defiant symbol of compliance, built to code, professional, and far more striking than the gentle row of trees it replaced. I even added decorative planters at each end, filled with HOA-approved desert plants. Neighbors couldn't stop complimenting it, and that warmed my heart. The timing was perfect. The wall was done just before the HOA's annual meeting, where the board gets elected and next year's budget is approved. I arrived early, staking out a spot in the back of the Pine Hollow Ridge community room with a few boxes of documents. As residents filed in, I handed each one a sealed envelope containing my investigation, an 18-page summary of Karen's violations, backed by a full appendix of documents, timelines, and specific bylaw citations for every offense. On the cover, a simple question: "Is this the leader you want for Pine Hollow Ridge?" The room buzzed with energy when Karen walked in, 20 minutes late and visibly rattled by the unexpected crowd. Normally, annual meetings barely drew a handful of people. I'd heard last year's had just 15 residents beyond the board. But tonight, nearly 120 people crammed into the space, all clutching identical reports, whispering among themselves. Karen froze for a split second when she saw everyone engrossed in my packet, but she quickly pulled herself together, stepped up to the podium, and kicked off the meeting. I just gave a small smile and a wave when she glanced my way. She didn't even get past approving the old minutes. Marigold Tennyson, an older resident with a commanding presence, stood up, her voice cutting through the room. Before we moved to the main agenda, I motioned for an immediate vote of no confidence in President Vandermeer, based on the bylaw violations, financial questions, and abuse of power detailed in the report we've all received. In an instant, more than a dozen voices chimed in to second it. Karen went pale, her hands gripping the podium tight. This is outrageous. We have an agenda to follow. That report. It's just lies from some disgruntled troublemaker who won't follow the rules. Her voice climbed higher, almost cracking, echoing through a room that had fallen dead silent. Marigold responded, calm but firm. Actually, the bylaws state in Section 5, Paragraph 7, that a no-confidence motion takes priority over everything if at least 15% of the members present support it. I think we've got that covered. She adjusted her glasses, scanning the room. Plus, everything in this report is backed by evidence, including financial records that I, as a former treasurer, can confirm are riddled with red flags about how our dues have been spent. The vote was almost unanimous. Out of 118 residents there, 112 voted to remove Karen as president. 4 abstained and just 2, Karen and her best friend, opposed it. When the results were announced, a few cheers broke out from the back, quickly hushed but loud enough to show how people felt. Karen stood frozen at the podium, still clutching the gavel, watching her power slip away in front of the community she'd once ruled. "You can't do this," she whispered, but the mic was off, her words swallowed by the shuffle as the vice president stepped up to take charge. "Per the bylaws, I'll serve as interim president until we hold a special election," Cornelius Brantley declared. He was a retired high school principal who'd always bristled at Karen's tactics. "First thing I'm doing is setting up an audit committee to review the last 4 years of finances. I'm also pausing all pending violation notices until we verify the process." As he asked Karen to hand over the HOA records and office keys, I quietly gathered my things and slipped out of the room. My part was done. I didn't want a seat on the board or to dive deeper into HOA politics. All I wanted was to live in peace, enjoy my new wall, and maybe plant some flowering vines along it come spring. Walking home in the cool evening air, I admired the wall from a distance, solid, built to code, and totally within the rules. Just as I reached my driveway, rapid footsteps pounded behind me. I turned to face Karen, her face twisted with rage, her perfectly styled blonde hair now a mess for the first time since I'd met her. You planned this whole thing from the start, didn't you? You set up this chaos just to humiliate me." She jabbed a finger at me, stopping inches from my chest. I sighed, exhaustion washing over me, drowning out the thrill of winning. "No, Karen, you brought this on yourself. I just followed the rules you set, one by one, until I built a wall that's completely legit." I gestured toward the sturdy structure behind me. Karen clenched her jaw, realizing she had no leverage left to wield over me. "This isn't over," she hissed. "I'll find a way to make you regret this. No one challenges me and gets away with it." "Maybe it is over, Karen." A voice cut in from behind us. It was Saffron Mead, joined by Lennox Drayton and another ex-board member stepping forward. "We just took a quick look at the financial books you left behind. Care to explain why $15,000 from the community fund ended up in your personal account 2 months ago? Or why your brother-in-law's maintenance company has been paid triple the market rate for 4 years straight?" Karen's face flipped from fury to panic in a flash. Her mouth opened, then closed, over and over, but no words came out. For the first time since I'd arrived at Pine Hollow Ridge 18 months ago, Karen Vandermeer was speechless. And that was it, the end. Vandermeer finally paid the price for everything she'd done. The neighborhood settled back into peace, buzzing with life and joy again. I started enjoying my days, free and at ease. What do you think of this story? Looking at Gideon Strathmore's clash with Karen Vandermeer in Pine Hollow Ridge, a social psychology PhD from Stanford weighs in. Karen represents the type who craves control to mask insecurity, while Gideon reflects our instinct to push back when threatened. This showdown isn't just personal. It's how modern society works, where power gets abused until someone stands up. From that lens, I see a lesson here. In today's world, understanding people's motives and holding your ground is the key to overcoming unfair pressure. Observe, question, act. Don't just accept. This story is meant for entertainment and insight. No intent to judge, criticize, or offend anyone or any group. What do you think about how power shapes our lives? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And hey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can dig deeper together. Thanks for sticking with me through this video. Wishing you a peaceful day, and I'll see you in the next one.